year is 2012, right? Is this an important year? Well, why is this year, why could this year be one of the most important, if not the most important year of your life? What is so great about 2012? Anybody? Yes, you put your hand out. Why is this a good year? Why is this a great year?
November the 6th.
November the 6th. What I hear you saying is that just as indeed in Mike's prayer, this is a year of decision. Thank you for that prayer. This is a year of decision when you very well may be deciding something that affects your whole future, your children, your grandchildren. This is an important year. It is a momentous year because it's a year of making a choice. Now, you really think I'm going to stand up here and tell you what to choose? Oh, no. Would you believe that you're not going to be able to figure out what I choose? Because I can even keep it from June. I don't even tell her. But it is important because it is a decision year. But do you know that there is a more important year than even this year? There is a greater decision than the one you will make this year. And it doesn't have to be an election thing. It could be many things you're trying to decide. You had to decide who you were going to marry, or if you were going to marry. You had to decide whether you were going to take that job, if one was even offered to you. You had to decide if you were going to further your education or drop out. You make decisions all the time. But there is a year of decision. There is a year of choice. There is an ultimate choice that was made long ago. The Gospel of Mark chapter 15. Mark chapter 15. Verse 6 and following. Now at the feast, he, the governor, used to release for them one prisoner for whom they asked. And among the rebels in prison who had committed murder in insurrection, there was a man named Barabbas. And the crowd came up and began to ask Pilate to do as he usually would do for them. And he answered, saying, "Do you want me to release for you the King of the Jews?" Jesus. For he perceived that it was out of envy that the chief priest had delivered him up. But the chief priest stirred up the crowd to have him release for them Barabbas instead. And Pilate again said to them, "Then what shall I do with the man you call King of the Jews?" And they cried out again, "Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "What? What evil has he done?" And they shouted all the more, "I won't do it. Crucify him! Crucify him!" And Pilate said to them, "What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him!" So Pilate, wishing to please the crowd, released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. There were three choices made that day in Jerusalem over 2,000 years ago. There was a choice of the crowd. unruly, and they could be manipulated. And the enemies of Jesus had stirred them up. And you can get a mob to do anything if they're stirred up enough. Now, I don't believe this mob is the same ones that sang praises to God when Jesus came into Jerusalem a week before riding on a donkey. I don't think it's the same people. Maybe they are, but I don't think so. This is a different group. But it was a crowd who were thirsting for blood. And it was a crowd who wanted a popular hero released to them, Barabbas. And the crowd made a choice because they were instigated to do so by evil men. And their choice? Let Jesus be crucified, give us Barabbas. The multitudes, the populace today, makes a choice. They choose for Christ or they choose against Christ. It may not be an intelligent decision or a good decision, but everyone makes that decision. Yes, no, life, death, Christ, world. But they made a choice. But another person made a choice that day. Pilate. He's in charge, he thinks. He's got the authority of Rome behind him. He's got an army to back him up. He's got the occupying force of the Roman soldiers that he can call on just like that. And he's not stupid. He's intelligent. He asked Jesus several questions. When you read Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, you put them all together, and Jesus is before Pilate. Pilate really interrogates him. Good questions. And we're told plainly that he already knew this was a put-up job. That Jesus is framed. He knows Jesus is innocent. He knows that Jesus is without guilt. He knows that all those accusations that the religious leaders who were jealous of Jesus brought against him, he knew that was all made up and it was fictitious. He knew that. He's smart. He's political. And he made a choice too. He made a choice for political expediency over what was right and wrong, just as people do today. Right or wrong? I'm convinced that many people in leadership positions know right from wrong, know good from bad, know justice from injustice. And yet you study history. Go all through history and you'll find political expediency doing what you think will get you the most in your favor. And so Pilate, we are told, wanted to please the crowd. Has that got a ring to it? Wanting to please the crowd. Not just politicians, preachers can do that. We can entertain them, make them feel good. A feely kind of religion. Sitting around with psychoses and examining each other's navels, so to speak. Yeah, we can do that. Pat everybody on the back. Make them feel good. Don't tell them the truth. Please the crowd. You've heard me on this before. I'm not going to beat it to death. But I think I told you that many years ago when I was in seminary in Wake Forest, North Carolina, we had a chapel building that had a beautiful, beautiful steeple. And I, being the Christian young fellow, preacher boy, trying to learn to preach, was so excited to go to chapel until I looked up and there was no cross on that chapel. There was a weather vane. about why we put weather vanes on our churches instead of the cross. We want to see which way the wind's blowing before we preach. We want to see which way the crowd is going before we make a decision. And we do that sometimes in the pulpit. I don't mean you're harsh on people or mean to people, but you got to tell it like it is. And then the politicians do it all the time. Give them anything they want. The Romans did it. Give them bread and circuses. Bring them into the arena and let them just sit there and clap and see people kill each other and fight the lions and all that good stuff. Have a good time, have a circus, and bring more bread in and throw it out to them. And they'll eat it up and they'll love it. Oh, just beat the crowd. Doesn't sound very ancient to me. Kind of sounds contemporary. Please the crowd. And that's what he sought to do. The crowd made a choice. Jesus said, no one can come to the Father except by me. Period. Exclamation point. That's it. It's done. No one can come to the Father except by me. He said not, I am a way. He said, I am what? Say it with me. I am the way. I didn't hear that. Say, I am the way. That's what Jesus said in John 14. I am the way, the truth, the life. Not a way, a truth, a life. But the crowd made their choice, and Pilate made his choice. In fact, are very graphic in the Bible about he washes his hands. I'm free of this. Where? Give me a towel. I want to get this off of me. But there's another one who made a choice 2,000 years ago. The crowd, Pilate, who's the third? Jesus Christ himself made a choice. When he hung upon the cross later, they came up to him and said, he saved others, he can't save himself. Truth is, he could have saved himself. He could have. As I said, Pilate was intelligent. So was Jesus. And had Jesus wanted to, all he had to do was use a little diplomacy. When Pilate answered him questions, instead of him standing there mute, not responding, he could have gave some answers that would please Pilate. Truth is, Pilate did not want to kill Jesus. He really knew that he was innocent, and he really wanted to let him go. He tries to wiggle out of it over and over again. Jesus could have just said the right words. Pilate would have let him go. He could have done a miracle. You remember when Pilate sent him to Herod? In the Gospel of Luke, we read where Jesus comes to Herod, and Herod said, okay, fella, give me a miracle. Let me see a show. Let me see some entertainment. Come on, put it on for me. And it says Jesus gave no miracle. In fact, didn't say a word. He could have done miracles. I mean, he could still storms. He could raise the dead. He could heal the sick. Open the eyes of the blind. He could curse a fig tree. Right then, it just withers up and dies. Jesus had the power to do it. He could do it. But he didn't. He chose not to save himself. In the Gospel of John, you remember in the Garden of Gethsemane when Jesus is arrested? And they bring soldiers to him with swords and spears and staves and clubs. They come into the Garden of Eden. And they come up to Jesus, all the disciples, skitter, 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 they're gone. Jesus stands there. And he says, who are you looking for? Jesus of Nazareth, where is he? I am here. And you know what happened when he said, I am, which is another sermon in itself. When he said, I am he, they fell backwards. Jesus said, I could snap my fingers and 72,000 angels could come to my defense. Right now. 12 legions of angels. All I got to do is say the word. All I got to do is snap my finger. And believe me, I'm out of here. Jesus could have done that, but he didn't. He made a choice. No miracle, no rescue. You know why? Come on, tell me. You know why? Because he loves you that much. He loves you so much that he laid down his life willingly, gladly, voluntarily. He paid for your sin and for mine. He made the choice to die because he was motivated by love for sinners like you and like me. And he obeyed God, who had a plan, that he so loved the world, he so loved you, he so loved Brother David, that he gave his only begotten Son. That if David would just do it and believe and accept, David could have everlasting life. Got it. You got it. Because he made a choice. A more important choice than you're going to make in November, a more important choice than you're going to make when you're seeking marriage or a job or a school or where to live or what house to buy or what car to buy, which you probably shouldn't buy. More important than any decision you make is the decision that Jesus made because he loves you that much. All right? So what? Now you have a choice. Have you accepted Christ Jesus as your personal Savior? Have you given your life to him and dedicated yourself and said, here I am, just as I am, such as I am, here I am. And I surrender everything. I'm going to be honest with you. You're not looking at a preacher that surrendered everything. And I'll tell you something else. I got a feeling I'm probably not looking at anybody who's really surrendered everything.